Zelda is one of the most iconic princesses in the fantasy genre. Across the series, Zelda has fallen into the hands of evil, the same evil that seeks to destroy her kingdom. Unlike her Nintendo counterpart, Princess Peach, Zelda doesn't sit by and simply wait to be saved. In many of the games, she prepares for Link's arrival and aids him in his battle with Ganon. Like Link, Zelda is a reincarnation born into the royal family when Hyrule needs her most. Many of these incarnations have seen great struggle and fought for their kingdom, but none more so than the Zelda born in the Age of the Wild. At the start of her journey, Zelda was smart but self-centered. She had a knack for research and archaeology. She knew her true strength was her intelligence, quite fitting for someone whose previous incarnations obtained the Triforce of Wisdom. With endless Sheikah technology being uncovered daily, Zelda tried her best to help Hyrule's research efforts as they prepared for the return of Calamity Ganon. Her father, however, was discontent. He stressed that Zelda needed to complete her duty as the princess by unlocking the sleeping power of the goddess Hylia, a power bestowed upon all previous Zeldas. Despite her strenuous efforts, Zelda remained unable to unlock such power. Her heart was not fully committed, and her mind dwelled on her research. During the Sheikah technology excavation effort, the king appointed Link, a young and powerful knight, to be Zelda's personal guard. Zelda became frustrated with her father's disapproval and Link constantly at her side. She began to run off on her own to conduct research. When Link showed up, she lashed out and yelled at Link to stop following her. Zelda felt the immense pressure of her position and thought she was alone in such a burden. Her heart knew her purpose was research, but she was forced to conduct royal ceremonies and continue her task of unlocking the goddess's power. The weight became too much to bear alone. She didn't want to admit that she needed someone to help lighten the load. When Zelda left for the Gerudo Desert alone, she was ambushed, chased, and surrounded by the Yiga clan. She was defenseless until Link finally found her and fended off the attacks. This was Zelda's wake-up moment. Link was no longer a nuisance who was ordered by her father to follow her. He was now a true ally. After this experience, Zelda valued Link's presence and began to share her passions with him. She learned that Link also had a great burden weighing on his shoulders. In her journal, she wrote,
"When I finally got around to asking why he's so quiet all the time, I could tell it was difficult for him to say, but he did. With so much at stake and so many eyes upon him, he feels it necessary to stay strong and to silently bear any burden, a feeling I know all too well. For him, it has caused him to stop outwardly expressing his thoughts and feelings. I always believed him to be simply a gifted person who had never faced a day of hardship. How wrong I was. Everyone has struggles that go unseen by the world. I was so absorbed with my own problems, I failed to see his."
With this revelation, Zelda felt empowered to carry on her task of awakening the goddess's blessing. Zelda, Link, and the four champions traveled to Mount Lanayru. There, Zelda would conduct a ceremony in the Spring of Wisdom as a final effort to be blessed by Hylia. Alas, none of her powers became present, leaving Zelda and the others to feel defeated once more. To make matters worse, time was up. Calamity Ganon had awakened. As the champions devised an attack strategy, Urbosa suggests she take Zelda somewhere safe, away from Ganon's destruction. A single word would change Zelda's path to that of a true leader forever.
No.
Despite the obvious danger to herself, she decided to take charge and lead from the front. This is the difference between a leader and a boss. All the best leaders throughout history, in our world and the fiction variety, stand on the front line. They blaze the path forward. They show what is possible and what true courage looks like, not just in actual battlefield, but in any aspect of life. The parent who teaches their child how to accomplish difficult tasks, the scientist who works on new research for the greater good when all others have given up, the manager who gets to work before and leaves after everyone else, all leaders. The best leaders are not the ones who seek the power of one, but the person who is called to action despite having no interest in the rewards that the position comes with. Zelda could have hidden away somewhere and waited for the worst to happen, but she didn't. She wanted to take on the overbearing task of facing Ganon's evil head on. She knew something that most quote-unquote leaders forget. Leaders are servants of the people, and it was her time to serve. Zelda and Link charged toward the castle. By the time they arrived, it was too late. Ganon's power consumed the divine beasts and guardians, who laid waste to Castletown. Once Link knew their fight would be in vain, he forced Zelda to flee. There was nothing she could do. Her despair and fatigue drove her to tears. She lamented to Link that she failed as a leader, but she spoke too soon. Battered and beaten, Link tried to stand off with a handful of guardians. Zelda pushed Link aside as one of the guardians charged its laser beams and the goddess's powers awoke. Her desire to save at least one person brought forth her full potential. With a single attack, she dismantled the guardians. When Link collapsed in fatigue, Zelda took charge with her quick thinking and ordered 2 Sheikah guards to take him to the Shrine of Resurrection. After they left, Zelda marched on to Hyrule Castle and into the belly of the beast. Zelda used her newfound power to suppress Calamity Ganon and stop him from gaining full power. Not only did she have the strength, courage, and wisdom to do so, but she did so for 100 years, waiting for Link to recover. Even after the 100-year wait, she did her best to keep control while Link regained his strength and memories. Zelda's grip on Calamity Ganon began to slip, and she could have given up at any time. But, as a leader should, she never gave up hope. She stayed strong for those who wouldn't stand a chance if the Calamity was able to run its course. Entrusting Link to take action and fighting Calamity Ganon while he was weakened, Zelda practiced another important leadership trait: delegation of power. A good leader spreads their authority and tasks among those below them in the hierarchy. This does a few things that are beneficial for all involved. The leader can focus on big picture issues, while important yet smaller tasks are carried out by others. This gives those below the leader a sense of responsibility and purpose, creating an overall inclusive group. This also ensures the leader doesn't have too much power and changes can be made by those being led. Therefore, Link is not saving Zelda, although she will thank him for doing so. They are working together, each of them with a task at hand. Zelda trusted Link to do the physical combat, while Link trusted that she would seal Calamity Ganon away. Zelda did just that. She believed in Link and stopped the Calamity. She thanked Link for his commitment to her and Hyrule. Zelda knows that despite her strength and leadership skills, she couldn't have accomplished her grand task without him. A good leader remembers to thank and reward their people for their hard work and dedication. Giving credit where it's due keeps a leader humble and builds a stronger connection with the people they lead. In return, the people will have the desire to continue their hard work. When this happens, the group will flourish because everyone is working for the greater good of the group. Shortly after their victory, Zelda expressed to Link that she wished to rebuild Hyrule. She believed the kingdom could be restored to its former glory, or even greater if they put in enough effort. Link and Zelda took a trip to Zora's domain to examine divine beast Vah Ruta, and to speak with the Zora king about his beloved daughter, Mipha. After Zelda and Link depart Zora's domain, Zelda set the reconstruction of Hyrule into motion. She knew there was a lot of hard work ahead of her, so she cut her hair short. This would ensure that her hair wouldn't get in the way, and as a bonus, she wouldn't have to spend as much time maintaining it. After all, she had enough on her plate already. One of the first places Zelda and Link visited was Tarrey Town, home of Hudson the construction worker. Link told Zelda the story of how Hudson built Tarrey Town from the ground up, with the help of all the races in Hyrule. Upon hearing of Hudson's achievements, Zelda knew he would be the best person to commission for the kingdom's restoration. With the castle in ruins, Link took Zelda to the house he purchased in Hateno Village. This small home would become their base of operations. The home was pretty bare bones, so Zelda added her personal touch to the house and truly made it feel like a home. After a bit of rest, Zelda journaled to brainstorm on her next task.
After the calamity, I asked myself how to rebuild, and set out across Hyrule in search of an answer. I saw collapsed buildings, lost cities. The damage was far worse than I had imagined. But as I watched the people and heard their stories, I was convinced all was not lost. The people's spirits were not broken. They and their strong wills are Hyrule's greatest treasure. They are the ones who will rebuild, and my contribution to their efforts will be to protect them while they do so.
Thus, Zelda had a plan. She conversed with Hudson, and they set up building material checkpoints around the kingdom. Wood, stone, and bricks would be available to everyone across Hyrule as they rebuild. Towns and villages could take charge of rebuilding their homes at the expense of the royal treasury. Zelda also commissioned specific projects during the push to rebuild.
As part of Hyrule's reconstruction, We've built a school in Hateno Village. It's the largest Hylian village with its sprawling, bountiful land. There are so many children living here that it seemed the ideal place to found a school.
Zelda requested Bolson, Hudson's former boss, to build the school. She also recruited Simon, Purra's former assistant, to teach at the school. She believed his years of research would prove to be a great asset. Zelda also spent plenty of time with the students, teaching them about Hyrule's history. Instead of spending time, rupees, and resources on making the castle a livable place, Zelda only commissioned a slight modification to her and Link's home in Hateno Village. She would call upon Bolson for this project.
I had him add a secret room to my house, one that won't appear on the plans. It's dim but humidity and temperature controlled, so it's very comfortable. It's proven very useful when I'm working alone and need to concentrate.
Zelda only gave herself just enough to have some comfort and a private workplace. The rest of the royal treasury resources went to the people. Zelda had truly become a servant of the people. With the reconstruction in full swing, Zelda decided it was time for her and Link to find some answers to the mystery of the reoccurring calamity. Upon the castle's deconstruction, an underground path became visible, and a gloom seeped out of it. Zelda knew an investigation would be her next course of action. Before embarking on their research trip of the tunnel, Zelda suggested that they visit the Great Deku Tree and retrieve the Master Sword. Zelda thought it best to be prepared for whatever they might find under the castle. However, her forward thinking wasn't enough to prepare them for what awaited in the dark. As Link and Zelda traveled deeper into the unknown, they noticed strange markings, statues, and ruins. Zelda's initial hypothesis was that what they found was of Zonai origin, a legend she knew little about. As a dutiful researcher should, Zelda began to document their findings with the Purra Pad. As they continued their search, Zelda and Link found a collection of murals depicting the imprisoning war, a subject Zelda read about during her studies of Hyrule history. Zelda was overcome with excitement as these murals confirmed the stories she read about. Now she had the documentation to prove it true. Unfortunately, that excitement would be short-lived when Zelda and Link entered the next chamber. A mummified corpse of the Demon King himself awaited their arrival. A strange glowing arm held him down, but before long, it fell to the ground along with a relic known as a sacred stone. Zelda picked up the relic as the corpse came back to life. The next moments were a flash. The Demon King spoke Zelda and Link's name, unleashed his power, destroyed the Master Sword, injured Link, and sent Zelda falling toward the depths below, all while the castle of Hyrule was pushed toward the sky. Link jumped and reached for Zelda, but the glowing green arm stopped his descent, and Zelda continued to fall. Before any harm could come to Zelda, the relic she picked up activated her power of time and teleported Zelda to the distant past. The confused Zelda was discovered by the founders of Hyrule, King Rauru, a Zonai, and Queen Sonia, a Hylian. Upon discussing her dilemma, Zelda exclaimed that she must find a way back to her era. Queen Sonia sensed that Zelda shared the same power over time as her, and believed it may be possible for her to return to the distant future. Zelda tried her best to find a way back, however, her mastery over time was severely lacking. Not only that, but the era she was stuck in had its own problems that needed attention. Ganondorf, the source of the calamity and upheaval, had plans of destroying Hyrule before it could ever get truly started. Zelda recognized that he was the reason for her era's struggle. She could have given up her search for a way home and sat back as Rauru and Sonia tried to solve the Ganondorf problem, but she did neither. Zelda continued to search for a solution to both issues. Giving up was never an option Zelda wished to entertain. Just as Zelda started to understand her time powers, Queen Sonia was murdered by Ganondorf, setting Zelda on a new path, the Imprisoning War. Rauru summoned sages from each of the races to fight the Demon King. However, Zelda exclaimed that Ganon would survive into her time and Rauru would die, sealing him away. Rauru explained that he must try anyway and that they must put their faith in Link. The battle with Ganondorf happened exactly as Zelda prophesied. With Rauru dead and Ganon sealed, Zelda visited the Temple of Time to reflect. She knew that despite Link's power, he would not be able to destroy the Demon King alone. During her visit, Zelda's sacred stone beckoned her to stand before a pedestal. the same one that Link would stand before once he conquered the Great Sky Island. Both Link and Zelda witnessed a golden glow through which Link would pass the Master Sword to Zelda in the distant past. The spirit Fi, who resided within the Master Sword, told Zelda what she must do to defeat the Demon King. Thus, Zelda set into motion plans to help Link in the distant future. First, Zelda brought the broken Master Sword to Minoru, seeking her help. Zelda explained that the Master Sword can heal itself over time, but the amount of time needed for it to defeat the Demon King would only be possible via Zelda's draconification. Minoru warned Zelda that this forbidden act would entail Zelda losing herself. She would become an immortal dragon, capable of healing the Master Sword and making it even stronger, but the cost would be great. To become an immortal dragon is to die and be reborn as something else, something unrecognizable. Despite these warnings, Zelda chose this irreversible act as she knew it would help Link and save her people. But before she transformed, Zelda needed to ensure Link would not have to face Ganon alone. Zelda visited each of the sages and asked them to help Link when the time came. Each of them promised Zelda that when the Demon King broke the seal, the sage of their lands would reawaken and aid the hero of Hyrule, just as they did with King Rauru. With the promise of the sages, Zelda returned to the Temple of Time. Minoru's spirit followed her and entered the Purapad, which Zelda entrusted to a steward construct. Both the pad and Minoru's spirit would guide Link on his journey to find the other sages. Zelda did all she could to set Link up for success, and now she was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. This incarnation of Zelda suffered the most pain out of all of her previous selves. She lost her mother at age 6, struggled to meet her father's high standards, and struggled further to awaken her goddess-given power. She would lose her father, champions, and countless Hyrulean civilians to the death brought on by Calamity Ganon. Even after these tragedies, Zelda single-handedly sealed Ganon away for 100 years as she waited for Link to awaken. Once he did awaken, Zelda would hold on still. And now, after knowing that those efforts did nothing but briefly calm Ganondorf's wrath, she would do the unthinkable and become the Light Dragon, healer of the Master Sword. She would give up her life, her essence, her true being to save Hyrule once again. Zelda held her sacred stone in her hands and briefly reflected on Minoru's warning. But before she could back out of her task, Zelda swallowed the sacred stone. Her eyes shook, and then light expelled from her body. Zelda was in agony and on the verge of losing control, but she fought the pain to pick up the Master Sword, which she held close to her body. Right before she lost complete control, she cried out for Link to
Protect them all!
a bone-chilling plea for her efforts to not be in vain. Once Zelda took her full dragon form, she ascended above the clouds as she wept her final tears, each one representing an important memory. After this painful transformation, Zelda roamed the skies for tens of thousands of years until Link found her and claimed the healed Master Sword, one strong enough to defeat the Demon King. The Master Sword painfully protruding from her head, Zelda saw the hero of the wild gliding toward her, but she had to be sure it was Link. Once he grabbed the hilt of the Master Sword, she tested his stamina. She knew only Link would have the ability to maintain his grip while she flailed about in the sky. Link maintained his composure and passed Zelda's test, after which she ascended into the heavens. Zelda released her grip on the Master Sword and allowed Link to retrieve it. As Link held the Master Sword above his head in triumph, Zelda shared one last memory with him. She explained her plan to heal the Master Sword by infusing her light power into it until the present day. Even with her objective complete, Zelda was still cursed to roam the skies of Hyrule for eternity. However, she wasn't done protecting Hyrule. During Link's battle with Ganondorf, the Demon King's thirst for power was insatiable and he swallowed his sacred stone. Ganondorf committed the forbidden act of draconification, just as Zelda had. However, he did so out of power lust and ignorance. Ganondorf promptly became the Demon Dragon. Zelda sensed the grand evil that accompanied her in the sky and rushed to Link's aid once more. She freed him from the Demon Dragon's grip and ascended high into the sky, allowing Link to dive onto the Demon Dragon and attack his weak points. Then, Zelda would swoop in and catch Link. She repeated this pattern until Link used the Master Sword to land the final blow, destroying the Demon King at long last. With the evil expelled, the spirits of Sonia and Rauru appeared. Link, Sonia, and Rauru used their combined powers to create the Ultra version of Recall, reverting Zelda to her true self and freeing her from the curse of draconification. Zelda and Link began to fall to the surface. Once he grabbed hold of her, he shielded her the best he could as they landed into a body of water. Link gently laid Zelda on the soft grass of Hyrule Field, saving her and repaying the debt he owed for when Zelda saved him from the Guardians all those years ago. Zelda was flooded with relief and appreciation for not only her return but the destruction of the Demon King. After Zelda took some much-deserved rest, she, Link, and the sages traveled to the floating temple once more. There, Minoru said her goodbyes as it was finally time for her spirit to move on. Zelda shed one last tear for her final loss, the Sage of Spirit. The remaining sages pledged their loyalty to Princess Zelda, the greatest leader Hyrule has ever known. It's unclear whether or not each incarnation of Zelda passes on any of their powers or wisdom to the next, but if that is the case, this Zelda has set up the next incarnation for success. Zelda from the era of the Wild, and her story has truly become the legend of Zelda. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found some entertainment from this video because I had a lot of fun putting together Zelda's full story. I also want to offer my thanks to Eurothug4000 and her contribution to the video via voicing Zelda's journal entries. I've been a fan of her content for a couple of years now, so please go check out her channel. The videos she creates are far more elegant than what you've just watched, and a link to her channel will be in the description, along with a few of my favorite videos if you need to know where to start. In addition, please be sure to check out the music credits in the description. This video would not have been the same without the great music I was able to use. Well, my friends, until next time, have a great one.